When you're joining rows and rows of squares with sashing in between, does your alignment get a little wonky? Mine sure does, and it's frustrating to try to make them work because you can't see through the sashing along the tops of the strips to the other ones. Well, this little method of marking is very helpful so that you don't have to resort to that dreaded seam whipper. Let me show you how. So here's the problem. I've stripped together my blocks and they have their sashing in between, and my blocks are put together fine, but when I go to stitch my sashing in between the blocks, if I stitch this one and then I'm going to lay that one down, I have a real hard time figuring out where this should line up. And I know you've been there. Well, this is a really good solution. I did not come up with it, but it's a great solution to keep you straight. And this is what you do. I'm going to start at the end of my strip, whoops, and I'm going to mark a 1/4 inch, which represents, of course, the 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm using this is a Crayola pen, whoops, that's not holding down real well, a Crayola pen, which is washable. And, you know, I'd use something different if I were doing this in real life, but I wanted you to be able to see it. So this represents the end seam allowance. Now, what I'm going to do is my block, I cut them 10 inches, 11 inches, so they finish 10.5. So I've got my 10.5 inch lined up right there, and I'm going to mark the other end of it. Now, my strip finishes, my sashing strip finishes 3/4 of an inch. So I am going to measure 3/4 of an inch, and then I'll go down for the next block and I will measure 10.5 inches. Let's get this right here. And I'll mark 10.5 inches, then I'll do the 3/4, then the 10.5, and work my way down. So now you just lay down your strip onto the block strip, line everything up, and stitch that seam. And then when you go to stitch the other set on, you'll have those lines there and everything will line up perfectly. Really smart. Now, doesn't that make it much easier with fewer headaches? I love tips like that. For lots more videos, go to QNNTV.com.